Dragon Age Origins was rated M for mature by the ESRB and contains blood, intense violence, language, partial nudity, and sexual content. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, my name is Amaronith and I play games for the internet, and today I'm playing Dragon Age Origins. It's another time to read some Codex Entries, given that we just finished clearing the Mage Tower. But I did notice when I was opening this that I had missed reading during the episode one of the last of the Promises of Pride Codex, Article 248. And the last bit of it is, "The call is made. We will stride out of here with pride in our step, regardless of the outcome. This is for the good of the Circle. Uldred will see to it. Libertarian Ronas." And on that note, we will begin in Creatures. Article 1. Abomination. We arrived in the dead of night. We had been tracking the Maleficarum for days and finally had him cornered, or so we thought. As we approached, a home on the edge of town exploded, sending splinters of wood and fist-sized chunks of rocks into our ranks. We had but moments to regroup before fire rained from the sky, the sound of destruction wrapped in a hideous laughter from the center of the village. There, perched atop the spire of the village chantry, stood the mage, but he was human no longer. We shouted prayers to the Maker and deflected what magic we could, but as we fought, the creature fought harder. I saw my comrades fall, burned by the flaming sky or crushed by debris. The monstrous creature, looking as if it were a demon wearing a man, looking as if a demon were wearing a man like a twisted suit of skin, spotted me and grinned. We had forced it to this, I realized. The mage had made this pact, given himself over to the demon to survive our assault. Transcribed from a tale told by a former Templar in Cumberland, 884 blessed. It is known that mages are able to walk the Fade while completely aware of their surroundings, unlike most others, who may only enter the realm as dreamers and leave it scarcely aware of their experience. Demons are drawn to mages, though whether it is because of this awareness or simply by virtue of their magical power in our world is unknown. Regardless of the reason, a demon always attempts to possess a mage when it encounters one, by force or by making some kind of deal depending on the strength of the mage. Should the demon get the upper hand, the result is an unholy union known as an abomination. Abominations have been responsible for some of the worst cataclysms in history, and the notion that some mage in a remote tower could turn into such a creature unbeknownst to any was the driving force behind the creation of the Circle of Magi. Thankfully, abominations are rare. The Circle has methods for weeding out those who are too at risk for demonic possession, and scant few mages would give up their free will to submit to such a bond with a demon. But once an abomination is created, it will do its best to create more. Considering that entire squads of Templars have been known to fall at the hands of a single abomination, it is not surprising that the Chantry takes the business of the Circle of Magi very serious indeed. Article 10. Desire Demon. In all my studies, I must say that the most intriguing was my interview with the Desire Demon. That the creature was willing to speak with me was a sign that this was no mere monster, mindlessly driven by its nature, but rather a rational being as interested in me as I was in it. It took a form that I would call female, although I had no doubt it could appear otherwise. I wondered if it appeared as it did because I wanted it to, or because I expected it to. She, and indeed I could only think of her as such now, smiled warmly at me and laughed a musical sound that seemed to thrill my old heart. So frightened was I of this creature's legendary abilities to twist the hearts of men, and so relieved was I when I looked across the table into her dark eyes. This was a fearsome creature of the Fade, but as I spoke with her, I slowly came to realize that this demon was merely as misunderstood as we mages are ourselves. From the Journal of former senior enchanter Malleus, once of the Circle of Ravane, declared apostate in 920 Dragon. Of all the threats from beyond the veil, few are more insidious and deceptively deadly than the Desire Demon. In folklore, such demons are characterized as peddlers of lust, luring their prey into a sexual encounter only to be slain at the cumulation. While a Desire Demon can indeed deal in pleasure, in truth they deal with any manner of desire that humans can possess, wealth, power, and beauty, to name a few. Far more intelligent than the bestial hunger and rage demons, and more ambitious than the demons of sloth, these dark spirits are among the most skilled at tempting mages into possession. Many who serve the whims of a Desire Demon never realize it. They are manipulated by illusions and deceit, if not outright mind control, although these demons are reluctant to resort to such crude measures. Instead, they seem to take great pleasure in corruption. The greater the deceit, the greater their victory. Only demons of pride prove more fearsome opponents when roused. Their abilities to affect the mind allow them to assume disguises and even alter the environment to their purposes, not to mention the great strength and speed they possess if they should have to resort to more physical means. Most often a Desire Demon will attempt to bargain its way to freedom, if overpowered. Many stories exist that depict mages defeating Desire Demons to the point where a wish can be wrested from them. It should be noted that in such stories, the demon almost always gets the upper hand, even when the mage thinks his wish has been granted. Ow. Oh dear. Article 11. Dragons. Dragonlings. Newly hatched dragons are roughly the size of a deer and ferociously hungry. They live for a short time in their mother's lair before venturing out on their own. The slender, wingless creatures are born in vast numbers, as only a few ever make it to adulthood. This is an updated article entry. Alright. I'll make note of that in the description below. Dragons. Female dragons take much longer to mature than their male counterparts. They too undergo a metamorphosis of sorts at adulthood, but while males lose the use of their forepaws, females actually grow a third set of limbs specifically to serve as wings. Young females travel great distances looking for a suitable nesting site. Because of their nomadic habits, these are the dragons most frequently encountered by man. Article 14. Golems. Golem. Once a crucial part of Orzammar's defenses, golems have all but vanished, as the secret to their manufacture was lost over 1,000 years ago. What few golems remain are guarded closely by the Shaperate, brought out when the battle with the Darkspawn grows desperate enough to risk their loss. No one now would sell a golem for any price, but in ancient times dwarves sold many golems to the Magister Lords of Tevinter. They are devastating weapons in war, living siege engines capable of hurling boulders like a catapult or plowing through enemy lines like an earthquake. Article 20. Pride Demons. Let me explain what it is to face a pride demon, my friends. You may scoff and say that our talents exist only to face mages, but you will encounter demons often. They will be summoned by a Maleficarum and bound to do his bidding, and while at times they will be forced into the possession of a host, they will also face you in their true form, a powerful opponent indeed. Do not underestimate it. Pride is powerful and intelligent. When we have encountered one in its true form, its most common attacks are bolts of fire and ice. Fire they will use to burn an opponent, and the magical flame will combust anything you wear regardless of make. Ice they will use to freeze an opponent in place. Be cautious, for they enjoy employing this against warriors in particular. More than one group of Templars has made the mistake of attempting to overwhelm a pride demon, and suffered the consequences, believe me. And if you think that having the aid of other mages will assist you, you are wrong. Pride demons can render themselves immune to magic for short times, and are adept at dispelling magic that is cast upon you, as much as we Templars are able to disrupt spells. Think on that for a moment, my friends. Be wary of how prideful you become, lest you find too much in common with such a fiend. Transcript of a lecture given by Wynne, Templar commander of Tantervale, 686 Steel. Article 21. Rage Demon. Encountered in the Fade, the true form of a rage demon is a frightening sight, a thing of pure fire, its body seemingly made of amorphous lava, and its eyes two pinpricks of baleful light radiating from its core. The abilities of such a demon center on the fire it generates. It burns those who come near, and the most powerful of its kind are able to lash out with bolts of fire, and even firestorms that can affect entire areas. Fortunately, even powerful rage demons are less intelligent than most other varieties. Their tactics are simple. Attack an enemy on sight with as much force as possible until it perishes. Some rage demons carry over their heat-based abilities into possessed hosts, but otherwise the true form is mostly seen outside of the Fade when it's specifically summoned by a mage to do his bidding. Article 22. Rat. What are you, mad? Even the most giant of rats isn't going to present that much of a problem to anyone larger than a cat. Even the stories in the archives tell of blight touch rats still only attributed them with the ability to spread the plague. The rats themselves got no larger than perhaps 3 feet in length, covered in sharp bony spikes and boils. Disturbing, certainly, but dangerous? This is no fantasy conjured by madmen, young man. You have much more important creatures to concern yourself with. Transcript of a lecture given by Nalia, Senior Enchanter of Hosberg, 844 Blessed. Note, she was later eaten by a blight rat in 846 Blessed. Rats of unusual size? I don't believe they exist. Article 27. Sloth Demon. And I looked at the creature it had become, and it had become me, a veritable copy of my form, of my very mind, stared back at me, as if from within a mirror. I thought surely that this was a trick, an illusion meant to put me off guard, but as I engaged the thing with my sword, it fought me with maneuvers that I recognized. It parried as I parried, it swung as I swung, it spoke to me and said things that only I could know. I think this demon of sloth has no form or identity of its own. It is envy as much as sloth, I believe, and mine was not the first shape it had stole that day. An excerpt from a transcript deposition. An excerpt from a transcribed deposition of Tyrannus, Templar commander of Cumberland, 390 Towers. The most difficult assumption for some who study demons to overcome is the notion that a sloth demon is, in and of itself, slothful. If that were so, it seems highly unlikely that any such demons would cross the veil into our world, or once here, would fight to possess any creature with a will of its own, and we know both these things to not be the case. Certainly some demons are lazy and complacent, but who knows, perhaps these creatures even cultivate such a reputation. The truth is that demons of sloth are named so because this is the portion of the human psyche that they feed upon. Doubt, apathy, entropy. They seek to spread these things. The sloth demon hides in its forms, a master of shapes and disguises, always in the last place you look, and from its hiding place it spreads its influence. A community afflicted by a demon of sloth could sooner become a dilapidated pit, where injustices are allowed to pass without comment, and none of the residents could be aware that such a change has even taken place. The sloth demon weakens, tears at the edges of consciousness, and would much rather render its victim helpless than engage in a true conflict. Such creatures are best faced only with a great deal of will, and only with an eye to piercing their many disguises. In items, Article 34. Yes, Article 34. The Litany of Adralla. Adralla. Let's go with that. Adralla of Verantium dedicated her life to the study of blood magic, the academic study rather than the practice. A deeply pious mage, she was renowned in her day for having found a counter to every form of mind control, a defense against dreamwalkers, and even counterspells to demonic summons. Her efforts went unappreciated in her native Tevinter, however. After 3 different magisters attempted to have her killed, she fled the country, choosing to take refuge in the land of blessed Andraste's birth. She spent the remainder of her days with the Circle of Ferelden. The Litany of Adralla disrupts the casting of mind control spells. Use the litany whenever a creature tries to dominate another with magic, and it will interrupt the casting. Once the spell is in effect and a character is under a blood mage's power, it is too late. And Article 51. Yusaris, the Dragonslayer. In the companies of monsters he went, down the empty wolf roads after the dragon, to the lands where ice is like steel, and the air grows thin as a beggar, and every rocky path is strewn with the bones of the lonely dead. There Dane dwelled, and 50 swords were worn to rusted ruin, before at last they found the cave of Fenshal, ancient keeper of the mountains, bane of wolves. Dane sought a way in which the dragon might be felled. Fiend of fire and talons, its scales brighter than any warrior's mail, teeth greater than men, and all around the slumbering worm were bones, wolves, men, beasts beyond counting. The fume of death frightened even the wolf pack, and Dane, desperate, crept into the cavern to seek the monster's death alone. There, shining among the dead like a star, his hand found a sword, Yusaris, forged by the dwarf smith for an Alamari lord long ago, waiting age after age to be taken to battle once more, and this Dane freed from the earth and struck at the eye of the dragon still sleeping with a swift, terrible blow. And Fenshal woke, wroth, only to die. From Dane and the Werewolf. The legend of the blade Yusaris predates Andraste. The sword that Dane found in the dragon's treasure hoard, which he used to slay both Fenshal and the werewolf, was passed to his son Hafter. Dane may have been fiction, but Hafter was fact. In 140 Divine, he led the Alamari tribes against darkspawn that flooded into the Ferelden Valley from the Dwarven lands. He not only drove back the horde, he also then defeated the combined forces of the Avar and Chased, who hoped to take advantage of the chaos. His victories earned him such respect from the tribes that he was named the First Tairn. After years of ruling the valley in peace, it is said that Hafter left Ferelden, sailing into the unknown east of the Amaranthine Ocean with the blade still in hand, never to be seen again. In Magic and Religion. Article 63. The Rite of Annulment. In the 83rd year of the Glory Age, one of the mages of the Navaran Circle was found practicing forbidden magic. The Templars executed him swiftly, but this brewed discontent among the Navara Circle. The mages made several magical attacks against the Templars' vengeance for the executed mage, but the Knight Commander was unable to track down which were responsible. 3 months later, the mages summoned a demon and turned it loose against their Templar watchers. Demons, however, are not easily controlled. After killing the first wave of Templars who tried to contain it, the demon took possession of one of its summoners. The resulting abomination slaughtered Templars and mages both before escaping into the countryside. The Grand Cleric sent a legion of Templars to hunt the fugitive. They killed the abomination a year later, but by that time it had slain 70 people. Divine Galatea, responding to the catastrophe in Navarra and hoping to prevent further incidents, granted all the Grand Clerics of the Chantry the power to purge a circle entirely if they rule it irredeemable. This Rite of Annulment has been performed 17 times in the last 700 years. From the Of Fire's Circles and Templars, A History of Magic in the Chantry, by Sister Petrine, Chantry Scholar. Article 65. The Black City. No traveler to the Fade can fail to spot the Black City. It is one of the few constants of that ever-changing place. No matter where one might be, the city is always visible, always far off, for it seems that the only rule of geography in the Fade is that all points are equidistant from the Black City. The chant teaches that the Black City was once the seat of the Maker, from whence he ruled the Fade and left empty when men turned away from him. Dreamers do not go there, nor do spirits. Even the most powerful demons seem to avoid the place. It was golden and beautiful once, so the story goes, until a group of powerful magister lords from the Tevinter Imperium devised a means of breaking in. When they did so, their presence defiled the city, turning it black, which was, perhaps, the least of their worries. From Beyond the Veil, Spirits and Demons, by Enchanter, Myrdramel. Article 74. The Fraternity of Enchanters. Another aspect of circle life is the fraternity. When a mage becomes an enchanter, he may ally himself with a fraternity. These are cliques that cross circle boundaries, mages of common interests and goals who band together to ensure that their voice is heard within the College of Magi in Cumberland. The largest fraternities currently are the Loyalists, who advocate loyalty and obedience to the Chantry; the Equitarians, who advocate temperance and follow a distinct code of conduct which they believe all mages should hold themselves to; the Libertarians, a growing fraternity publicly maintaining greater power for the circles, but secretly advocating a complete split from the Chantry, a dangerous opinion, naturally; the Isolationists, a small group that advocates withdrawing to remote territories in order to avoid conflicts with the general populace; the Lucretians, who maintain that the circle must do what is profitable first and foremost. They prioritize the accumulation. That's the word. Sorry. They prioritize the accumulation of wealth with the gaining of political influence a close second. So far, an alliance between the Loyalists and the Equitarians have prevented the Libertarians from gaining much headway, but there are signs that the Equitarians may throw their support in with the Libertarians. If that happens, many mages predict it will come to civil war among the circles. From The Circle of Magi, A History, by First Enchanter Josephus. Article 79. Lyrium. More than half the wealth of Orzammar comes from a single extremely rare substance, Lyrium. The Chantry believes it to be the waters of the Fade, mentioned in the Canticle of Thernades, the very stuff of creation itself, from whence the Maker fashioned the world. Only a handful of mining caste families hazard extracting the ore, finding the veins in the stone, quite literally by ear, for in its raw form Lyrium sings, and the discerning can hear the sound even through solid rock. Even though dwarves have a natural resistance, raw Lyrium is dangerous for all but the most experienced of the mining caste to handle. Even for dwarves, exposure to the unprocessed mineral can cause deafness or memory loss. For humans and elves, direct contact with Lyrium ore produces nausea, blistering of the skin, and dementia. Mages cannot even approach unprocessed Lyrium. Doing so is invariably fatal. Despite its dangers, Lyrium is the single most valuable mineral currently known. In the Tevinter Imperium, it has been known to command a higher price than diamond. The dwarves sell very little of the processed mineral to the surface, giving the greater portion of what they mine to their own smiths, who use it in the forging of all truly superior dwarven weapons and armor. What processed Lyrium is sold on the surface goes only to the Chantry, who strictly control the supply. From the chantry it is dispensed to both the Templars who make use of it in tracking and fighting Maleficarum, and to the Circle. In the hands of the Circle, Lyrium reaches its fullest potential. The Fomori craftsmen transform it into such an array of useful items, from the practical, such as the magically hardened stone for construction, to the legendary silver armor of King Calenhad. When mixed into liquid and ingested, Lyrium allows mages to enter the Fade fully aware. Unlike all others who reach it while only dreaming, such potions can also be used to aid in the casting of especially taxing spells for a short time, granting a mage far greater power than he normally wields. Lyrium has its costs, however. Prolonged use becomes addictive, the cravings unbearable. Over time, Templars grow disoriented, incapable of distinguishing memory from present, or dream from waking. They frequently become paranoid as their worst memories and nightmares haunt their waking hours. Mages have additionally been known to suffer physical mutation. The Magister Lords of Tevinter Imperium were widely reputed to have been so affected by their years of lyrium use that they could not be recognized by their own kin, nor even as creatures that had once been human. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar, by Brother Genitivi. Article 80. Maleficarum. It has been asked, what are Maleficarum? How shall we know them? I have been as troubled by this question as you. You have come to me for the wisdom of the Maker, but none have seen the Maker's heart save the beloved Andraste. And so I have done as all mortals must, and looked to the words of his prophet for answers, and there I found respite from a troubled mind. Pardon me, for she has said to us, magic exists to serve man, and never to rule over him. Therefore I say to you, as they who work magic which dominates the minds and hearts of others, they have transgressed the Maker's law. Also Our Lady said to us, those who bring harm without provocation to the least of his children are hated and accursed by the Maker. And so it is made clear to me, as it should be to all of us, that magic which fuels itself by harming others, by the letting of blood, is hated by the Maker. Those mages who honor the Maker and keep his laws, we welcome as our brothers and sisters. Those who reject the laws of the Maker and the words of this prophet are apostate. They shall be cast out and given no place among us. From the Sermons of Justinia I. Article 85. Four schools of magic. Creation. Opposition in all things, for earth, sky, for winter, summer, for darkness, light. By my will alone is balance sundered, and the world is given new life. Thernates 5:5. The school of creation is sometimes called the school of nature, is the second of the schools of matter, the balancing force and complement of entropy. Creation magic manipulates natural forces, transforming what exists and bringing new things into being. Creation requires considerable finesse, more than any other school, and is therefore rarely mastered. Those mages who have made serious study of creation are the highest in demand, useful in times of peace as well as war. From the Four Schools, a Triste. A Treatise. By First Enchanter Josephus. Oh. I'm pretty sure I'm still missing one. Anyway, Article 86. The Four Schools of Magic. Entropy. To you, my second-born, I grant this gift. In your heart shall burn an unquenchable flame, all-consuming and never satisfied. Thernates 5:7. The second of the two schools of matter, entropy, is the opposing force of creation. For this reason it is often called the school of negation. Nothing lives without death. Time inevitably brings an end to all things in the material world, and yet in this ending it is the seed of a beginning. A river may flood its banks, causing havoc, but bring new life to its floodplain. The fire that burns a forest ushers in new growth, And so it is with entropic magic that we manipulate the forces of erosion, decay, and destruction to create anew. From the four schools, I'm never gonna pronounce this word correctly. I'm sorry, everyone. By the first Enchanter Josephus. Article 87. The Four Schools of Magic. Primal. Those who oppose thee shall know the wrath of heaven. Field and forest shall burn, the seas shall rise and devour them, the wind shall tear their nations from the face of the earth. Lightning shall rain down from the sky, they shall cry out to their false gods and find silence. Andraste, 7:19. Sometimes called the School of Power, the Primal School is the second of the schools of energy, balanced by spirit, and concerns the most visible and tangible forces of nature itself. This is the magic of war, fire, ice, and lightning, devastation. This is what the vast majority imagines when they hear the word magic. From the Four Schools, a Triste, by First Enchanter Josephus. Article 92. The Veil. I detest this notion that the veil is some manner of invisible curtain that separates the world of the living from the world of spirits. Whether it be called the Fade or the Beyond as a matter of racial politics, I refuse to indulge in at the moment. There is no this side and that side when it comes to the veil. One cannot think of it as a physical thing, or a barrier, or even a shimmering wall of holy light. Thank you very much for that image, your perfection. Think of the veil, instead, as opening one's eyes. Before you opened them, you saw our world as you see it now, static, solid, unchanging. Now that they are open, you see our world as the spirits see it, chaotic, ever-changing, a realm where the imagined and the remembered have as much substance as that which is real, more, in fact. A spirit sees everything as defined by will and memory, and this is why they are so very lost when they cross the veil. In our world, imagination has no substance. Objects exist independently of how we remember them or what emotions we associate with them. Mages alone possess the power to change the world with their minds, and perhaps this forms the nature of a demon's attraction to them. Who can say? Regardless, the act of passing through the veil is as much more about changing one's perceptions than a physical transition. The veil is an idea. It is the act of transition itself, and it is only the fact that both living beings and spirits find the transition difficult that gives the veil any credence as a physical barrier at all. From A Dissertation on the Fade as a Physical Manifestation by Moreno, Senior Enchanter of the Minratha's Circle of Magi, 655 Steel. Culture and History. All the way down here. Article 154, the Tevinter Imperium. The Imperium is little more than a dilapidated old slattern crouching in the far north of Thedas, drunkenly cursing at passer-by to recall her faded beauty. One can see that Minrathous was once the center of the world. The vestiges of her power and artistry yet stand, but they are buried in layers of filth. They are buried in the layers of filth that the Imperium's decadence has accumulated over the ages. The Magocracy live in elegant stone towers, literally elevated above the stench of the slaves and the peasants below. The outskirts of Minrathous are awash in a sea of refugees, turned destitute by the never-ending war between the Imperium and the Qunari. And yet the Imperium survives. Whether with sword or magic, Tevinter remains a force to be reckoned with. Minrathous has been besieged by men, by Qunari, by Andraste herself, and never fallen. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar, by Brother Genitivi. Characters. Article 174. Knight Commander Greagoir. It is the innocent folk of Ferelden who matter. I would lay down my life and the life of any mage to protect them. Grim and taciturn, Greagoir has been Knight Commander of the Templar forces stationed at the Circle Tower for so many years that hardly anyone except the first Enchanter recalls that he is not simply part of the tower itself. Article 177. First Enchanter Irving. The circle will go on, and we will learn from this tragedy and be strengthened by it. There is no higher office in a circle tower than that of the first Enchanter. The one who holds this title must not only be able to must not only be an able administrator, but also a mentor, leader, and surrogate parent to all the mages of the tower. Irving has proven himself to be all these things with an added dose of cunning. Most apprentices know that little goes on in the tower that Irving does not know. He can soothe Templars angered by some childish magical prank, at the same time that he lauds the pranksters and everyone walks away satisfied. Though much of the circle was destroyed by Uldred's abominations, Irving survived and plans to rebuild what he can. Article 187. Wynne. I will not lie motionless in a bed with coverlets up to my chin, waiting for death to claim me. Wynne's talent became apparent early on, particularly her skill at healing magic. She was well liked by her mentors and was recognized as an exceptionally gifted student. Even the Templars who watched her could not deny that she represented the best the circle had to offer. She was an intelligent young woman who possessed a quiet confidence and maturity beyond her years. She spent many years mentoring apprentices within the circle, and her peers thought so highly of her that she was asked to be First Enchanter Irving's successor, but she refused, saying she had no desire to work in the upper echelons. When word reached the tower of King Kaelin's call to arms, Wynne volunteered to go to Ostagar. For Wynne, the printed word is a window to true understanding. A scholar by heart, she feels that what a people commit to the page is sacred by definition. And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.